we share 4 things with our prepared missionaries or something. I think these be good for our audience. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at that team and you're like, okay, I'm going to go, it's not just that I went, it's what I do that matters. That's the attaboys, what we did in the name of Jesus, not just that we went. Then in that, there's 4 things that are going to help you get to the field, that are going to help you stay on the field, and they're going to help you be productive while you're on the field. Now, I've been using these 4 things for years, and they're near and dear to my wife and I's heart. They were in us as we went, stayed, and were productive. So we share them with everybody, and I really wanted a cool name for them. You know, when you have something, you want to put an acrostic with it or something. And after 12 years of having these 4 things, the name I've come up with them is the 4 things. I can't
Four things.
anything better than the 4 things. And I've tried to. I've tried changing the language. It's the 4 things. The 4 things to help you get there, stay there, and be productive while you're there. So that you're not just going, that what you're doing is kingdom impactful. 4 things. Number 1, it's a sense of calling. I know that some people downplay the sense of calling. Everybody's called. We don't want to mystify the sense of calling, giving people an excuse or a rationale to not go. I understand the sentiment, but I would just describe having a sense of calling to get there, stay there, and be productive there as this. A sense of calling is just a matter of obedience. That when I look at the plow the Lord has put in front of me and invited me to push, and I look at the fields he wants me to push that plow in, to put my hand to it is a matter of obedience. Therefore, if I don't put my hand to it, it's disobedience, therefore sin. So when I say a sense of calling, it's this is the field, this is the plow, these are the other hands on it, and it is a matter of obedience to God to put my hand on the plow next to theirs and push. To not do it is sin. And that's a sense of calling. Okay, so that's how I would echo it. I've got to come to that to get there, to stay there, be productive while I'm there. Second thing is to get there, stay there, and be productive, you're going to have to work out of your passion. Right? That goes back to your original question. You've got to be working out of your passions. If it's your friend's passion or your spouse's passion or your mama's passion, it's not going to last. You will not be as productive there. You will not stay there, and you probably, especially if you have to raise support, without that working out of a sense of passion, you're not even going to get there. Right? So it's got to come from the passion that's within you. All right? And the third one's going to tie into passion. A famous preacher said a good quote about fire and the fire that's within us. He's like, fire's awesome. You can cook with it. You can make things with it. You can do all this stuff. But fire's great when it's contained.
That's right.
But when that fire is loose in the backyard, it's destructive. Right? I love that quote. And so when you have that passion you're working out of a sense of calling and obedience to God, the third thing to get there, stay there, and be productive while you're there is strategic alignment. That's why the choosing of your team is so important. That's why the alignment of your calling, your passions, and the alignment of how we're pursuing the Great Commission together, that for our people that are not just listening but watching, I have my hand up and with my palm out, and I'm taking my other hand and putting it to match it. Well, you want to see the mission as the left hand, palm out. And you want to see the right hand coming up on that, and it's laying itself in a mirror effect with parity right against it. That's the strategic alignment you want to be on with your partners, your coworkers, and your team. And the strategy, the way you're implementing the Great Commission. I'm not blurry with it as if I'm moving my fingers. I'm not one-off with it to the right or left. I'm not out here doing my own thing. If I'm going to get there, be productive there, and stay there, I've got to be in strategic alignment. And that's where we create parameters for that passion and fire so that it's contained to a degree and therefore can be a productive blaze to create great things. So good. Right? And there's a fourth thing. So calling, passion, strategic alignment. And if we're going to get there, and we're going to stay there, and you're going to be productive there, you must be willing to make great sacrifice. Wise missionary told me one time that it takes 7 years to get to your optimal effectiveness as a cross-cultural worker. And most people never make it that long. Wow. Right? So if you look at the Copes, you'll see the success they're having, kingdom success, that they would attribute all to the Lord. Okay? But there's a longevity of service in their life to produce that. Can you accomplish some things in a couple of years? You bet you can if you're on a great team that was doing stuff before you and is going to be doing stuff after you. So intermediate term missions, I love, right, on a great team. But if you're going to get there, just to get there, it's going to take great sacrifice. To stay there, it's going to mandate you continue to make great sacrifice. And if by any way you're going to be productive on the mission field, it's going to take great sacrifice. So when you're making great sacrifice, you have to look around and say, you know what, everybody I put my hand on the plow with, they may not be making the same sacrifice, but they're all making sacrifice along with me.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to do it because I'm strategically aligned. I'm willing to do it because it comes from my own sense of passion. And I'm willing to do it because it's obedience to me.
Yeah.
So these 4 things have served
So
us
good.
well to make sure we get that passion, we create good parameters, and help it be very productive.
I love that. I love that. And honestly, like, you know, I start to think about the Institute, Waymaker Institute, and us training up leaders for the community, for the church, for the nations. And it's so encouraging to hear you articulate that, because one of the values that we have is begin with the end in mind, meaning that we are trying to develop men and women that, and I'm going to steal that. I'll give you credit.
4
Trust
things.
me. Yeah. But this idea that it's not an attaboy that you just go, or that you just plant a church, or that you just, complete the program. The values we begin within the mind, because we want to, decades from now, know that you were prepared and equipped in such a manner that you were able to go the distance, that you were able to have health, that you knew what an abiding relationship with Jesus looked like. You all of these, it was like, man, that it was so affirming, so encouraging, and I love the way that you articulate it, and it shows the fruit of what God's done through you and your ministry. Yeah, it really, really does show.